So we have started reading the first chapter. The first chapter is basically talking about the difficulty to understand the meaning of Mahayana teaching. And but once understood, there is a great benefit. So precisely speaking, there is the meaning. So that kind of meaning conveyed in the first chapter itself is of great importance, because when it says that the Mahayana teaching is difficult to understand, we need to understand why it is difficult. Some of us who have some amount of intelligence might think that since I'm very intelligent, nothing should be difficult for me. But this is, yes, in one sense, it is dependent on the intelligence, but on the other sense, it is not just intelligence, but also you need to have some, stock of merit to be able to understand such Mahayana teachings. Now, Mahayana, the word Mahayana itself basically means the great path or the great vehicle. This is called great. Vehicle is basically taking the responsibility, taking the great responsibility. So taking great responsibility means taking the responsibility and well-being of all sentient beings. Now look here. We are talking about taking responsibility of all sentient beings. We are not talking just about human beings. We are talking about taking responsibility of all sentient beings. So naturally, you can see now how difficult it is. So forget about taking care of all sentient beings, including birds, animals, and so forth. We are unable to take responsibility of human beings even. Forget about all human beings. Think about taking responsibility of all Russians. That is difficult. Forget about the whole people in Russia. Think about taking responsibility of, say, most people living in Moscow. For those of you who live in Moscow, even that becomes difficult. Then think about taking responsibility of your small area, your institution, things like that. Even there you have disagreement, disharmony. Even there you have a difficulty, because we are by nature quite individualistic. We have a very strong, sense of ego. I, me, and mine, as I've spoken earlier, we focus primarily on I, me, and mine. Anything that is related to me, I, or mine, that's important. My book, my house, my relatives, basically, this is how we get entrapped in the cycle of existence. We are not able to, transcend and go beyond this narrow-mindedness. So therefore, in the Mahayana teaching, what is being taught is, even when you talk about getting the long-lasting happiness, the only way to get that long-lasting happiness is to open your mind up, to develop loving kindness, to develop compassion, and to see all sentient beings exactly like you, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. But despite of that, innate, inborn wish, people are not able to remove their suffering. People are not able to get as much happiness as they should because of narrow-mindedness, because of ignorance, right? So you can see how difficult it is to follow the Mahayana teaching in that sense, because we are, for many lives, we are habituated with this self-centeredness, egoism, you see. Even in dream, we think about, the worries and concerns and sufferings that confront you, and not so much about other people, you see. But the truth is, if you really want a long-lasting happiness, then the only way to get that long-lasting happiness is to open up and think more about the well-being of others. Do many things for others. Practice generosity, observe morality, practice patience, and so forth in relation to other sentient beings. We those of us who claim to be a Buddhist, we aspire to become a Buddha. How can you become a Buddha? You become a Buddha by cultivating bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. See, again, you need that commitment. So without having that wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, how are you going to become Buddha? Even if you want to become a leader, you need to have some of these basic qualities of a leader. One who shows concern more about well-being of the people, not just oneself. One who does not look for one's name and prestige and money and things like that, you see. good marks of a leader, even an ordinary leader. So now it is scientifically found that the more you just think about yourself alone, the more you're prone to all kinds of sicknesses and illnesses. That is now scientifically found. And we don't have to depend on science. If you think for yourself, you will find that more you develop this narrow-mindedness, the more you think about yourself alone, the more you will have worry, the more you will have problems. So how much problems and difficulties you will have is not just dependent on external situation, environment. Yes, it is dependent, but primarily it is dependent upon how you react to those situations and environments in which you live. Because you cannot, suddenly change the environment and make everybody good and kind to you. Okay, they will more or less go by their, usual behavior. The climate will go by its usual pattern. Now, with this external changing situations, if you are unable to develop a mental attitude which is able to accept and adjust to that, changing situation, you will become a victim to those changing situations. So the problem with all of us is that we expect that long-lasting happiness from external things, from relatives, from friends, from money, from a nice weather. If the weather is a little bit tough here, then we say, okay, let us move to a better place. So you keep on changing the place, you keep on changing husband, you keep on changing wife, keep on changing nationality, citizenship. Wherever you go, so long as you carry your way of thinking and habit with you, you will continue to suffer. Even if you get a lot of money, you will continue to get suffer. That is a fact. And that we have clearly seen during this pandemic. Those people who don't have a bigger perspective, and then these people focus just on this problem of pandemic, just focus on the problems of not being able to go out, not being able to go for a picnic, not being able to socialize. You think just about all those small things. So that's the problem. I have repeatedly said this before. The problem of the people, especially in modern times, the problem is we neither know how to live alone, nor we know how to live with others. That is the problem, you see. So at the end of the day, you should really develop such attitude that with good environment, with bad environment, with good friends, with bad friends, whatever, in all situations, you should be able to live peacefully and happily. And that is possible with changed attitude. So to be able to develop that attitude, we need to, reflect on the truth, on the reality. I'm not talking about teaching, the Mahayana teachings are talking about reality. So basically we are talking about understanding the reality. Shunyata is a reality, impermanence is a reality, dependent origination is a reality. So in Buddhism we say, let us follow the law of causality. But these days I prefer using the word, let us follow the law of nature, because you cannot escape the grip of nature, you cannot pretend, go away from the nature. Nature will sooner or later, be it through climate change, be it through pandemic, whatever, you are a part of that nature. And if the nature is destroyed, if you play with the nature, you will become a victim. That is 100% sure. Okay. So therefore, all these teachings that is taught in Mahayana teaching, the way, the need to develop this great Mahayana, great mind, altruistic mind, is by realizing that if you look at the law of nature, then nature treats everybody equally. Just as this COVID-19 treated everybody equally, rich, poor, clever, not so clever, The only difference is if you have some stronger immune system, probably that will help you. But that you have to come from your side, you see. Immune system through your proper way of thinking, whatever, that has to be there with you. If you have that, then of course you will be slightly better. But otherwise, the pandemic, the COVID-19 itself does not discriminate anybody. So that's why, in accordance with the teaching of the Mahayana, Nagarjuna made this prayer, may I be able to, become like the 4 or 5 elements, the earth, water, fire, so forth, so that I'm able to serve everybody without any discrimination. The earth does not make any discrimination. The earthquake does not make any discrimination. The water does not make any discrimination, right? So it is us who make the discrimination. Why we make the discrimination? Because our mind is small, our mind is narrow. People with a small mind, narrow mind, they only know division. They don't know how to connect. We try to get connected through mobile phone, through internet and so forth. These are artificial connections, okay? Only to say hello and what is the weather, things like that. But in Mahayana, we are talking about heart-to-heart connection. Irrespective of whether there is a mobile phone or not, irrespective of whether there's internet or not, but mentally we can visualize that all sentient beings, all human beings, existing on this planet, on this globe, we are basically, whether you know them or not know them, but we are basically exactly same. Wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. We are same in the case of human beings. We are all same, that at the end of the day, we are all going to die. And in between, we have aging, sickness, death, and so forth, you see. So we are same. So if you are able to understand this sameness from the point of view of the law of nature, if you properly understand that, if you are properly able to understand that we are all subject to death and disintegration, then with that perspective, it doesn't make sense to try to kill other people because they're already subject to death. There's no need to bring more suffering because they're all subject to suffering, right? What we need and what is missing is loving kindness, something that would encourage each other, something that would help each other. And interestingly, I said this earlier, interestingly, those positive activities like helping each other, showing kindness, love, these are more closer to law of nature. For example, in the case of even a tree, the more there is the presence of the, beneficial factors like proper sunlight, proper water, proper manure, it will grow better. The more these ingredients are in harmony, in equal nature, the more the tree will become strong and robust and proper leaves will grow, proper flowers will blossom and so forth. This is law of nature, you see. So similarly, for us, for our growth, for our happiness, loving kindness is needed, compassion is needed. And that's how we are born. When we are born, the parents, the mating, not out of hatred. Nobody marries and, by saying that with hatred we will produce a child, right? But with attachment, attachment means it may not be perfect loving kindness, but a little bit of love, ordinary love and affection. And through this way, people come together. And with that kind of love, then the child come into being, come into this world. And then for the growth, proper growth of the child, parents simply kind of caring and hugging and, so this is very crucial. But as we grow a little bit up and get a little bit of education, so-called education, a little bit of money, then we forget all this, as His Holiness Dalai Lama regularly says. Then we forget all these important, values. Then we think I can manage. You see? Then again, when you get depressed, when you become old, when you get sick, you see, then this pretended life will not help you. For example, during this COVID-19 experience, there are many who, out of political reasons or whatever reasons there, many refuse to take this vaccine, you see. Now these days, unfortunately, I'm not blaming anybody, but hopefully I'm stating a fact. Now many of these days, many who are again getting very ill are those who have not taken the vaccine, you see. Right? So you can't just have a peaceful, happy life by pretending that it will be all right. You need to accept the fact and then lead your life in accordance with that fact, in accordance with the law of nature. And I've said this repeatedly. If instead of loving kindness, if anger is really scientifically, religiously, philosophically, if anger is really, really good for your health, go ahead. Become angry all the time. Right from the morning till late in the evening, just get angry and fight with everybody if that is good. But that is not, whether you believe in religion or not. It is very plain and obvious to all of us. It is far better to have loving kindness, compassion, and so forth. So therefore, since we are, we have this strongly habituated self-cherishing attitude, and to change that attitude and to develop a mind with broader perspective, which includes the well-being of everybody, if possible, all sentient beings, that's difficult. Therefore, Mahayana is difficult, right? So if you're unable to at least, think about all sentient beings, but at least try to be nice to your family members. Start from there. As I always say, think globally, act locally. Thinking alone is not enough. You have to deal with the real person. When you deal with the real person, meaning if you deal properly with your family members, if your co-workers, right? If you're, with your close, members of the community, then gradually you will be able to, see everybody on the same equal footing. That is really, really important. So in our life, we really need to learn to share whatever we have a little bit, be it your knowledge and education, be it food, be it clothing, be it guiding somebody. We have so much capacity to share so many things. You don't have to be very rich or things like that. So many things to share. So learn to share. Share your knowledge, share your education, share your expertise, and try to always uplift people. Don't try to discourage people, right? There are many, many people who are suffering. So for those people who are already like downtrodden, who are suffering, who don't have friends, if you just sit with them and extend your helping hand and even, smile at them, talk to them, it will make their day. It will encourage them. It will change their way of, life. Their whole life, they can change, you see. So it is only because, number one, we don't pay much attention to this, universal responsibility, global responsibility. We don't think much beyond our own family and so forth. That is the problem. And especially in today's world, unlike before, today, because of the speed of science and technology, we are hurled into the face of each other. So we are in a situation of almost like sink and swim together. Either we will sink down together. For example, if there is a, nuclear war, hundreds and millions will die during a short period. So we need to take responsibility to do away with all these destructive nuclear weapons and so forth, right? Right? So to summarize, this short life is not for death and destruction. This short life is for peace, for happiness. And if you are a believer in future lives, then of course this short life is not only for peace and happiness for this life, but to plan. I call it the Buddhist planning, which is more than 5-year plan or 10-year plan, but many eons planning. And that makes perfect sense, because in this life also, if you are somebody who thinks about only today, not for tomorrow, not for the day after, if you don't make a little bit plan. When I talk about making plan, I'm not saying, forget about today's happiness and plan for the future. I'm not saying that. That's not the Buddhist way. The Buddhist way is you should be very happy, try your best to be happy and cheerful and peaceful today. And then with that, also prepare for the future. Also prepare for the benefit of many others, right? So just like that. And for peaceful night sleep, we have to prepare our way of thinking in the day also. So these are all, related. So therefore, the text, right, in the first chapter, the text is saying that the Mahayana is difficult to understand. But if you understand it, you will get great benefit. So which basically means if you change your attitude from this narrow-mindedness to a mind of having the universal sense of responsibility, you become a totally different person, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. For a moment, forget that he is a reincarnation, but as another human being, there are people like His Holiness and many others. Same people with the same 24 hours, not more, they don't have more hours than us. Same 24 hours. But because their way of thinking is great, even one person is able to benefit many, many people. So we may not be able to, all of us may not be able to become the Dalai Lama and so forth, but we have our own capacity. All of us have capacity. We are all unique in our individual place. So unique means we all have different capacity to help many people. So you need to realize this Buddha nature, which will be repeatedly talked about in this text, especially when we discuss the chapter on lineage, the Buddha lineage. So that means we all have this Buddha potential. Buddha potential means your mind. Your mind has the capacity to expand it, to develop it to limitless state. And when you really through repeated practice and focused attention, when you really transform your mind from the negative to the positive, then you're really empowering yourself. And when you empower your mind, your physical state, everything, your habit, everything will change. You almost become a different person. So it is in our hand. It is in our hand. So whether we do it or not, it's up to us, right? So that's what primarily discussed in this text. So let us read the next verse. In the first verse, we spoke about the reason that we should study Mahayana Sutra, Alamkara, and Mahayana in general. The reason is because these Mahayana teachings are taught by Buddha and then elaborated by great teachers like Maitreya and so forth, who knows the meaning well, right? And this is taught with a motivation to help other sentient beings. So that's the greatness of the Mahayana teaching, you see. The teacher's motivation is to benefit the suffering sentient beings. The teacher's motivation is developing compassion, and thereby he is also asking his followers or other sentient beings who are participating or listening to this teaching to cherish this mind of bodhicitta and loving kindness and compassion and so forth. So that is basically what we studied or what we read in the first verse. So the second verse is saying, okay, if this is the beauty of the ornament, the Maitreya's composition, which is an ornament to the Sutra, Buddha's Sutric teachings. Okay. So now in this verse, the second verse is really talking about 5 points. 5 points by which this Mahayana teaching is becoming kind of unsurprising teaching, none above kind of teaching. Okay. So this is basically talking about the perfect subject matter of this Mahayana text, the perfect subject matter. So the perfect subject matter, to explain this, it says, the Dharma taught here also will generate supreme joy. And then how this Mahayana teaching that's taught here will generate supreme joy is explained with 5 examples. These 5 examples are explained in different contexts. The 5 examples are explained in the context of the 5 phenomena, 5 types of phenomena. It is explained in terms of the 3 natures, right? And it's explained in terms of the 3 persons, things like that. Now with the first, when these 5 examples explained in the context of the 5 phenomena, 5 things, then the 5 things that we are talking about are: number 1, name; number 2, reason; number 3, conception; number 4, suchness; number 5, non-discursive thought. So these 5 are explained with these 5 examples. Now here, name here means the imputed phenomena. Imputed phenomena. For example, when we talk about physical form, to our ordinary uninformed mind, that form might appear to us as existing from its own side. Okay? But that is not there. That is to be established. So this is basically talking about the selflessness of the phenomena like a form, which may appear to be having true existence, right? But it is not there. Now, once you understand properly, not just talking, once you properly understand that phenomena like a physical form does not exist as we think, you truly understand it, there will be tremendous joy. There will be tremendous joy. For me, I'm tempted to say, there's really like, let us say you are confined in a room for a long, long time and could not go for outing or for a walk. You have been a little bit stressed and things like that. And suddenly you go out, go for a adventure and go to a, let us say, very open place on the top of a mountain and things like that. And you will get that sense of space. That's how we get so happy when we go outing in a forest with the nature or on the top of a mountain where you have a, panoramic view. So it's really like that. Ordinarily, when we focus on things, we tend to see this as having independent, dependent existence. And thereby you develop attachment, anger, and hatred to that physical form, liking it, not disliking it. Your mind basically gets stuck there. That's how you lose your freedom. But when you see the kind of essencelessness of that physical form, having no true existence of that physical form, there's nothing to grasp. There's nothing to crave. There's no need to have obsession. So when there's nothing to hold on to, you're free, you see. So this is the thing. That is why we are saying Mahayana is so difficult to understand. Ordinarily, we would be happy if there's something on which we can tie our neck. My relative, tie your neck. My Mercedes car, tie your neck, and get stuck there. You feel happy. This is my house, get stuck there. This is my car, get stuck there. This is my wife, get stuck there. This is my husband, get stuck there. The more you get obsessed, the more you get this wrong idea that now I'm a rich person, you see. But purely from a spiritual and natural point of view, the less you have, the happier you will be actually. I mean, think about Milarepa, the great yogi. He's moving naked and does nothing, but always singing song of peace, happiness all the time. It's so interesting, for me, difficult to explain, because I'm just trying to show you the direction, a little bit sense that I get from the text. I'm trying to show you the direction because I'm not somebody who has that experience, you see. Or you read this song by Changcha Rinpoche, who's reading this song on emptiness. And at certain point, he was basically, dancing with happiness. Completely free, So the contradiction with us is, on the one hand, we are talking about, getting independence from this country, from freedom from that country. Everybody's saying, I want freedom, I want independence, for this, from that, we are talking. But the one that really is restricting your freedom is your narrow-mindedness, your negative emotions, which is constricting you, which is restricting you. And there, we are hardly doing anything. So before you ask for freedom from other people, other country, at least you should liberate yourself. Liberate yourself. And if you don't liberate your mind, your unliberated mind will employ and connect to other people and also enslave them. That is what is happening in the society. Because we are indoctrinated by wrong parents, wrong teachers, wrong politicians. Because all this so-called, teachers, leaders, whoever, not necessarily they have a bad motivation, but because their way of thinking is not expansive, not open, They'll try to teach and indoctrinate the little bit of things that they know, which may not be liberating. That's the problem. So therefore, Mahayana teaching is difficult. So therefore, now in the case of the name, I already explained. So once you understand that the imputed phenomena, okay, that the name is just imputed. It doesn't have, true existence from its own side. Once you really properly realize it, in other words, once you realize the selflessness of the phenomena, then it's really like, you ornamenting yourself with a golden ring or something, which is, handmade, not machine made, but hand carved beautifully, So even these days, although with machines we can come up with beautiful ornaments, but if it is handmade, then we may pay special attention saying that this is, not machine made, this is handmade. So if you ornament yourself, or somebody gives you that beautifully carved, golden ornament, you will be very happy. So this is the first example. Okay. Then the reason that the name is applied to that particular object or phenomena, like a physical form, is because of it is other dependent reality. Other dependent reality. Other dependent reality means that external object, like a physical form, came into being because of certain cause-effect relationship, or because of the interdependent relation, nature of the interdependent relation. And from that, then you will be able to understand that even though the physical form does not have true existence from its own side, through that you realize the selfness of the phenomena, but this does not mean to say that there is no physical form. Physical forms arise because of interaction of multiplicity of causes and conditions, because of interaction of interdependent origination. And through that way, you will be able to see the non-deceiving nature of law of nature, law of karma, the cause-effect relationship, non-deceiving. Even though things do not have true existence from their own side, but they will be there, they will function. If you do bad, there will be bad result. If you do good, there will be good result. So this is good news, In other words, the good things that you do will never be lost. Never be lost. This is important to understand. Because many people these days, when they're, because of difficulty of one individual's endeavor, they might say, oh, it's not, in today's world, there's no benefit making any, attempt to do good things. The result is invisible. People think like that. No, it is not invisible. It is visible. Number one, it will affect you directly. Number two, it leaves imprint. And especially in the the mind-only school, which is primarily taught in this text, imprint is a great thing, Living an imprint in your subconscious level or your conscious mind is extremely important, right? So therefore, you will be able to see properly the functionings, especially the subtle function of law of causality, which is very difficult to see, not easy. The grosser level, we may be able to get some idea. So start from the grosser level and then go to the subtle level. Then very subtle level, how things function by many things coming together. For example, scientists, they say, for example, for a human being, just to develop one thought, so many of the cells and the neurons and so many things are connected. Hundreds and thousands work together in synchronicity. You see, just for one moment of thought, many things are working together. It's really like magic and mystery, right? So why this is happening? This is law of nature. This is law of nature. Okay. So once you really realize that the functioning, the subtle functioning of law of causality again you will develop great joy. So which is really like the blossoming of lotus by the sun, right? When the lotus blossoms with the light, then the lotus will be happy in the sense the lotus will blossom, right? And that will make us happy also. For example, if you see lotus blooming, we'll get happy. But here in this case, it is saying that just as with the touch of the sun, the lotus blossoms and flourishes. So similarly, when we are able to develop this realization of the law of causality, we'll be happy, or in other words, will prosper, right? Much of the misdeeds, wrongdoings that happen all the time, not only in the case of ordinary people, but even in the case of so-called practitioners, is because we don't have firm conviction in the function of the law of causality, right? Even if you're somebody who has some inkling of idea that lying is bad or stealing is bad, but on certain occasions, we might think, okay, today the situation is such, so if I lie one time, should be okay. Today the situation is such that if I steal a little bit money today, it's fine. So therefore we break the conviction, and we lose the conviction in the law of causality. So therefore, if you properly understand the law of causality, and these days, interestingly, these days, recently, I was able to get this information on Facebook and YouTube. Many Tibetan geshes and abbots, dying peacefully and then in meditation. This is because of their having meditated on law of causality, believed in it and practiced it, and did not, distort the function of law of causality. Recently, many of them stayed in that meditative state after passing away. Just few days back, Geshe Lhakdor, I know him for a long time, meaning that at a distance, unfortunately, I did not had a very close personal connection, but I've saw him many times because he's been almost his whole year, whole life living in Dharamsala. So normally he is a very much sought after person because he does all these pujas and cleansing and, so many sick people go to him and things like that. So recently, when he was 103 years old, I'm gonna look at that. 103 years old, he was invited by his monastery, Gandhin Shartse monastery, to impart some of the, ritual and other lineages that he has been practicing for a long time, to pass on that lineage to some monks in the Gandhin Shartse monastery at age of 103. And he traveled from here to Dharamsala to Gandhin Shartse monastery and passed all those lineages to the monks. And just after passing all this, he passed away in a very peaceful meditative form. He was just looks like he was just reclining against the back seat and with his yellow, cloth, and a very peaceful form, 103 years old. So this shows that we can change. We can live peacefully and we can also exit peacefully. You see? So that shows if you continue to develop this unruly negative emotions all the time, your life will be turbulent while you're alive. You will create turbulence in the society. And when you pass away also, you will have great difficulty, because when, the experience at the time of the death is in a way not easy, because when all your 4 or 5 elements start dissolving, then you get frightened, you get a lot of fear. This is really like some scholars, they say the death is really like the summary of your life. So it's very tense, right? If you have not prepared well, it will be very tense. It is really like giving the final accounting. So we need to take these examples also to really, it's not just talking, we can show that it is affecting our life. Okay. The third is the conceptual thought. Now, in the case of the conceptual thought, which gives the designation, right? If you analyze it through the four modes of reasoning and so forth properly, then you will see this conceptual thought is mistaken mind. And once you see this conceptual thoughts is mistaken, then you will be able to stop this mistaken state of conception, continuous generation of conception. And then you will be able to taste the flavor of the Dharma. Then, of course, you will develop a lot of joy. So this is really the example here is, this is really like a person who has been famished or who has been starving for a long time, not getting food, and suddenly somebody gives that person not only food, but a very delicious food. He will see it as almost like a dream. How come that I've been suffering without getting any food? Now today I've got not only food, but such a, sumptuous, delicious food. Will be very, very happy. Especially you will be happy when you have nothing to eat, somebody gives, then there's a lot of happiness. Those of us who keep on eating non-stop, there's not much charm in eating, you see. So that's why in Buddhism also we have this regular practice of doing this nyungne, fasting. It's very good. It's starving you a little bit, fasting a little bit, then you will see the price of food, the value of food. And those of us who keep on eating, we hardly see the value of food. A starving person will be able to see the value of food. So just as this starving person, when suddenly gets food, he will be very happy. So like that, when you are able to see your conceptual thoughts as mistaken, that means now you are completely becoming a different person with the positive thoughts, unmistaken thoughts. Imagine. The mistaken conceptual thoughts creates problem. The mistaken conceptual thoughts are the root for developing all negative emotions. So you cannot be happy. But you stop that, mistaken conceptual thoughts, then of course you will develop that great joy. So there's the meaning. Fourth is realization of suchness. Now, in accordance with the Mahayana school of thought, suchness here means the lack of substantial separateness of the subject and the object. A lack of substantial separateness of the subject and the object. That means the subject and object are of same substance. Right? If my eye consciousness sees a form, then the substance of that form and my eye consciousness, in other words, the imprints by which the eye consciousness is able to see that object, this is basically because of the activation of the same imprint. Because of the same imprint. So therefore, they are said to be of same substance. So lack of substantial separateness of subject and object is called suchness or emptiness. So when you think about this suchness of lack of substantial separateness of the object and the subject, which is really beyond, conception of an ordinary person or just a logician, ordinary logician, dry logician. And especially when you develop this primordial wisdom of a Arya, a superior being, and have your mind completely, merged into that suchness, then you develop great joy. You develop joy. Now I cannot explain much, but I can just indicate by saying, for example, the more you go to your mind, the more there will be peace. The more you let your mind go out, and chase the object, there will be less peace. Now again, you can see how difficult Mahayana is to understand. And look at our ordinary people. We are habituated in running after things. Today, the whole world is running. Running where? For name, for fame, for money. It's all outward. So by running endlessly towards external objects, trying to get that much sought after peace and happiness, but how much happiness are we really getting? Even when you get that money, even if you get that name, how much happiness are you going to get? Not really much. But instead, if you go more within yourself through mindfulness, meditation, loving kindness, compassion, whatever you call it, the more you will get that peace. So that's why I have been, occasionally encouraging the people to at least do 4 or 5 minutes meditation every morning and learn to have your mind go within, focus within. The amount of peace you will get is unthinkable. Sometimes just close your eye a little bit and just keep quiet and think. Then you can see how much happiness you're going to get. Because when you do that, you are in touch with yourself. You are in touch with yourself. Doing meditation, focusing within oneself, doing mindfulness basically means developing loving kindness. Developing compassion basically means keeping in touch with your inner qualities, your inner potentials. The more we go away from our reality, the more we will be in disorder, right? So therefore, there will be a lot of happiness. Just like, hearing a good message. If you hear suddenly unexpected great message, you will be very happy. Oh, this is unbelievable, So like that, when you are able to have your primordial wisdom mind merge into that emptiness or shunyata, as Tsongkhapa says, just like water being placed in water, you're really unable to distinguish the emptiness and the primordial wisdom mind that is merged into it. Your mind is completely into it. You see, there will be a lot of joy. Not only emptiness. Again, I can give you an example. For example, if you go for a walk out into the nature, if you see something beautiful, a waterfall or beautiful tree with a lot of flowers and things like that, you will be like kind of shocked and mesmerized by that beauty. And at that time, there's not much word to express. You just, wow, you open your mouth and your mind is completely into that. You feel so happy. There's something like that, you see. When your mind is, when you develop this uncontrived, natural mind, let it engage into anything that is natural, including shunyata, there will be greater peace. Something like that, okay? This is like hearing good news. And then the fifth is the non-conceptual primordial wisdom, which is the wisdom of the Buddha in its meditative equipoise. And of course, once you develop such a high state of primordial wisdom, then there will be tremendous joy. There will be overflowing joy. So this is really like suddenly in front of you, somebody offering you a basket of gems, precious jewels, gold, silver, diamond, whatever. You will be like mesmerized. You will be astounded. Wow, like that, full of happiness. So again, with these examples, what is being explained, the examples are external examples. But what is the subject matter that is explained is all your inner qualities. Don't have this conceptual thought, develop discursive, non-discursive thought, right? Develop this mind, realizing emptiness, and so forth. So this is one way of explaining it. And then, of course, there are many ways of explaining it in relation to the three person and so forth. So I'm not going to go into detail, okay? Otherwise, we'll not be able to finish anything. so Okay, now let us move to the next verse. Now, the purpose of understanding the Mahayana teaching is if you are able to understand it, there will be, perfect name and perfect meaning, perfect meaning. So the next third verse is saying, when an well-adorned or ornamented person with natural quality, his image falls into the mirror, then due to seeing that, human beings will develop supreme joy. You may be, for example, somebody who has by nature a very good physical body. Then if you go into the mirror, yes, it looks nice. But in addition to that natural beauty, handsome or beautiful physical body, if you ornament it and again look into the mirror, then you say, wow, perfect, this crown fits you so well, this necklace fits you so well, this earring makes you like shine and whatever, perfect. So like that, right? So when an ornamented body of a person with natural quality, goes into the mirror, due to seeing it, the human beings will develop supreme joy. Likewise, the Dharma, which is well taught and possessing everlasting natural quality, the Sutra, which is taught by the Buddha, possessing everlasting natural quality, because what is being taught in this Mahayana teaching is nothing but the law of nature. Nothing but, something that is beneficial to everybody, right? To everybody. Now, in the case of this external ornament, some of the ornaments will be good for some, people who are grown up. But the ornament for the people who are grown up may not look good for a child. Ornament that looks good for a man may not look good for a wife. But this Mayan ornament is not like that. Very special ornament for everybody who wants happiness, who doesn't want suffering. It's good. Compassion is good for everybody. Loving kindness is good for everybody. The ordinary ornaments, even if it is expensive and beautiful and things, it may be lost. It can be stolen, right? But this inner qualities that's taught in Mahayana texts, nobody can steal it. It's there with you all the time, in terms of difficulty, in terms of happiness, in terms of problem, in terms of when you have friends, in terms of when you have no friends. They are the most important, friend, important supporter, important teacher. Even the external teacher, it's of course wonderful. But that external teacher, however great that external teacher, will not be there with you all the time, right? But once you develop this, in Buddhism, we call it inner tutor, external tutor and inner tutor. So we must learn to cherish these inner tutors or inner qualities. Even when the Buddha was passing away and he was requested to leave somebody as his representative, Buddha did not appoint any one person as his representative. What he said is, my teaching is my representative. See, so it's this teaching that you need to imbibe, and the qualities that is mentioned in this teaching must be cultivated within oneself, which will be your constant company, constant friend for this life, for many lives to come. So that is what he's basically saying. Likewise, the Dharma, which is well taught and possessing everlasting natural quality, also when its meaning is disclosed, the wise ones generate supreme joy. Disclose means for many of us, we may not be able to understand it unless somebody explains it. So this is what is done by this materials ornament of Mahayana Sutra Alamkara. It explains it. Now, even this explanation is difficult for many of us. So we need to depend on another kind of explanation, more detailed explanation, right? So all these commentaries by the experienced teachers are really the best ornaments, right? That makes the Mahayana Sutras beautiful. Okay. So in other words, these Mahayana teachings, as is said in one of the Sutra prayer, there is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. Okay, so this is what is like the 6 perfections, the 10 perfections, and so forth. The 10 grounds and so forth. These are all explained in this Mahayana sutras. So when you read it, if you're a wise person, intelligent person, you will be very happy. If you're not so intelligent, stupid, then you will not be happy with this, but you will be happy with the things that is available in the shops. Okay. Then it continues to explain about some of its great, qualities. First, it's going to the next verse that he's going to explain talks about the qualities of Mahayana by which it will help you remove your obscurations, okay, your contaminations. Like a medicine, which may be, pungent in smell, or fall in smell, or stenching. The smell is stenching, like a medicine, which when you smell, the smell may not be good. But when you taste it, it may be delicious. It may be of good taste. Or in other words, when you smell it, it may not be good, but when you really taste it, it will cure your illness. So it's very useful. So likewise, the Mahayana teaching is also of 2 types: meaning and letter, meaning and word. Meaning means the definitive meaning. Letter means the literal meaning. So it has a literal meaning and definitive meaning. So the literal meaning may not sound very good. For example, when we suddenly hear that all phenomena are empty, then people say, oh, this is not good, because you are there, I am there, beautiful things are there. So how can everything is empty? How everything is non-existent? So if you rely only on the literal meaning, then just like that medicine which is not good in smell, so you will not be able to understand it. So don't just get stuck with the literal meaning, but go for the definitive meaning. Once you understand the definitive, oh, this is the definitive meaning. So that's why in the Buddhist teaching, in the Mahayana teaching, we have these 2 levels of teaching: the interpretative teaching and definitive meaning. Interpretative teachings are there because not all people are same. You cannot teach the same subject to all the classes. You need to have a separate subject for kindergarten going students and a more difficult subject to the PhD students. The ultimate object is that gradually they should all do their doctorate and things like that. But because of their age, because of their class, intelligence, so forth, you have to have different subjects, right? So similarly, Buddha, like a great physician, a skilled person. For some people, for the time being, it is, better for them to teach something that is interpretative, not the definitive, because they'll not be able to understand it. To give you an example, if you read this story of Ajat Shatru, who killed his father, okay, and then he sunk into depression. And then, he was not able to come out of his depression. And then after consulting number of people, they suggested that you go to Buddha. He's the only person who may be able to help you. Then he went there, with their depression. Then the Buddha said, and then he said, I've killed my, father, and I performed a great misdeed. I killed my father. So what should I do? He was in big depression. Then the Buddha skillfully said, so what? Father and mother are to be killed. Okay? Because he had trust to the Buddha. When Buddha said, no problem, father and mother are to be killed, then he kind of came out of that depression. He was at least able to think for himself. And once he came back into his senses, then the Buddha said, now look, sit. I will explain you what I mean. He said, when I said father and mother are to be killed, I'm not talking about the physical father and physical mother, but I'm talking about the ignorance and the contaminant action. These 2 are like parents, father and mother, which produces all other negative emotions. So they should be killed. If they are killed, then your misdeed of having killed your father can also be purified, and so forth. So this is how the Buddha helped, very, very skillfully. So therefore, when you read the Dharma also, you should know these 2 levels of the interpretative teaching and ultimate teaching. Okay? Then the next verse, the vast and profound Dharma teaching is difficult to please like a king. Once pleased, then accordingly, it will bestow the supreme quality, the gift of wealth. That means this Mahayana teaching, which is expensive, vast, not only vast, but profound. So it's difficult to understand. And we discuss this repeatedly, difficult to understand. Just like, a king who is very difficult to be pleased by ordinary people. They will not even be able to talk to the person, you see. But through different ways, if you're able to please that king, then the king, because of his power, he will be able to, give you land, give you wealth, give you gifts, and so forth, guide you. So similarly, because this Mahayana teaching is profound and vast, it's difficult to understand. But gradually, if you make effort to understand it, then you will get all these great gifts of teachings that is contained there in the Mahayana teaching. So it will give you that supreme wealth. So in other words, you should, as His Holiness Dalai Lama repeatedly says, that you should engage in listening, contemplation, and meditation on these Mahayana teachings. And it is through this way that you will be able to actualize the subject matter. And if you do that, then the gift is you will actualize the 10 perfections, the 10 spiritual grounds, and so forth. All the qualities of the Buddha, you will be able to actualize it. So this verse is talking about the greatness of gaining control over all these great qualities. Then the last verse, the 6th verse, is the greatness of the causal collections, just like being able to enjoy all the wealths of a superior being, like developing faith, sense of shame, concern for others, and all this, 7 wealth of a superior being. So in this case, it says, those possessing these priceless, genuine gems or priceless, classic jewels, some translators have called it classic jewels or priceless or genuine gems. In other words, to simplify it, in the case of genuine, priceless gems, the gem or the jewel itself may be of high cost and high value. But those not knowing how to observe, how to analyze those precious gems, for them, it will be like any other stone. Like for example, in my case, in front of me, if some people throw a lot of precious gems, I may not be able to recognize them as important, because I'm not a connoisseur, as they say. So similar is the case with the unwise to this Dharma, right? So that's why there are not many people who talk about bodhicitta, not many who talk about Mahayana, and forget of all this. Not many people who talk about universal sense of responsibility, right? Because we are not able to see its great value. But once you study, contemplate, and meditate, and become wise, become knowledgeable about the Mahayana teaching, then you will be able to see the priceless quality of this Mahayana teaching. So again, this one is really saying that in order to really fathom and understand the great qualities of this teaching, you need to become wise. You need to study and become learned. Then only you will be able to understand it. So therefore, we need to do this through hearing, thinking, and meditation. Meaning that we need to develop not just superficial knowledge, but we need to develop, strong, incontrovertible faith towards the efficacy, towards the value of these teachings. That's just like some people who have no idea about the value of the gold, they will just kick it like any other stone lying on the footpath. But one who knows the value will immediately pick it up with great happiness, great joy, right? So therefore, those of us who follow the Mahayana teaching, not only we should try to understand the teaching, but even if you don't understand the teaching, if you know this is the Sutra Alamkara, or this is a sutra taught by Buddha and so forth, then we should really, in the Tibetan tradition, we place it on our head to get the blessing, and then also place the books on a little bit higher place. And we don't sit on these precious books, right? Anything that is of high value, we cherish it, we regard it. So all this we need to do so that we gradually become fortunate to be able to understand the meaning. Okay. All right, so I stop here.
Thank you very much, Geshe La. Now it's, I think that we have some time for questions, right?
Mm.
And please, as usual, you can send your questions to the chat and I'll read them to Geshe La. And those of you who are speaking English, you can raise your hand in the reactions in Zoom. So far, we received one question. Geshe La, I'll read it to you. Dear Geshe La, you often mention the idea of loving kindness, but it's kind of hard to me to understand its real meaning and make sense of it, because people sometimes say goodness must come with feasts. You probably know this impression. And then I don't agree with it, but on the one hand, we should be able to defend the fundamental values, but on the other hand, it's not right to fight or argue. So where is this line distinguishing between loving kindness, but on the other hand, like impunity, permissiveness, or overindulgence, indifference, faint-heartedness? So how to combine all this?
I remember, saying repeatedly that these inner qualities like compassion and loving kindness are not sign of weakness. They are sign of strength, number one. That you need to understand. Otherwise, people, I think the reason that you are asking this question is many people take loving kindness, compassion as sign of weakness. And that you develop loving kindness, compassion, then people will believe you and you will not be able to respond back, So that's why I repeatedly said, be compassionate and tough. That's possible. Be compassionate and strong. Nelson Mandela was a very strong person, very compassionate, but very strong person. He was not weak. He did not ask for, Africans, South Africans to, to use violence and arms and to kill people, But he was very, very tough. When I visited South Africa, I saw this island, the Robben Island, where he was imprisoned for 20 years. He did not break by that imprisonment, Right? So therefore, I have repeatedly, and not only me, but in Buddhism, it is said that the importance of developing wisdom and heart together. Wisdom will teach you how to respond properly without getting angry, without developing, violence. how to respond in accordance with the situation, if needed, in a tough, strong way, but not resorting to violence, not developing hatred, right? So that is important. And then, of course, the need for loving kindness, I don't think there is any need for more explanation. There, one has to take the example of oneself. Oneself needs other people's loving kindness and compassion. If you need that for you, why others don't need it? They're also same like you. And then, as I already explained, the fact that you are born with a loving kindness, whether you like it or not, the reason that you are able to live and flourish is because of somebody's loving kindness and compassion. Even when you are mistreated by some other people, still you are able to flourish because of your love and affection and certain good qualities within yourself, right? So there are many, testimonies by people who lived for many, many years in, gulags and ghettos, and they came out, many who did not develop that loving kindness and other inner qualities, they become very vulnerable and died. But those people who continuously cultivated that love for their family, for their wife, for their husband, for their children, despite, very difficult situation, they are able to live, and gradually they are able to write books later on. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe La. The next question is from Dinara. Dinara, please unmute yourself.
My question, where is the word line between attachment and love? For example, can I love somebody or something without attachment?
Attachment basically means to get stuck there. Loving kindness or love, pure love, as I already mentioned before, the ordinary love between men and women is, I call it business love. I love you so long as you love me. So it's like saying, I give you this, you give me. That's business. But in Buddhism, we are not talking about business. So in Buddhism, we are talking about loving that other person, even if that person doesn't love you. Right? Like, for example, as I already mentioned in the previous question, answer to the previous question, that, for example, you love yourself, not because you had been very kind to yourself and things like that, right? But because by nature you want happiness, you do not want suffering. Therefore, you take care of yourself, you love yourself. So similar is the case when you treat other people also. So attachment, as I said, is not only love, but it's blind love. Then you get stuck there. Genuine loving kindness, you love people, but not dependent on other people's interaction or response. You are free. You see? You just give and not expecting anything back. So it means you are free. People give me back, okay, not give me back, okay, Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe La. The next question is, how can we understand it when Buddha gives predictions about the future lives, or when he talks about the past lives of others? Does it mean that, or can we take it as an indication that reality has already been established?
Yeah. Reality is not established by the Buddha, but it's a reality that is coming, and he's able to see it. Okay. We are not saying it is there now, here, today. It's not saying. If it's something to come in the future, he's saying in the future something like that will be there. So to give a very small example, it's like weather forecasting. Okay. If through weather forecasting, if I say after 3 days there will be big earthquake, the earthquake is not happening now. It is non-existent now. But it will come after 3 days, and it comes after 3 days. Okay? There's something like that.
Thank you, Geshe-la. The next question is, in the verse number 5, the Dharma of this Mahayana Sutra Alamkara, the Dharma is compared to a monarch because it's difficult to please the monarch,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Could you please explain just a moment, I'll read it because it's written in English. Geshe-la explained that to listen, contemplate, and meditate on Dharma are the ways to study and probably to please it, the Dharma,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
My question is, how can we understand to please in relation to Dharma? So what does it mean to please in relation to Dharma?
Please, in relation to Dharma, if you use the word, use the word please in relation to Dharma, then you are personifying the Dharma. Dharma is not a person, but you can personify. Just as, the person, monarch, can be pleased. It's difficult to please that monarch by very difficult to please means, but by small activities, the monarch will not be pleased. Or ordinary people may not be able to please that monarch. But if you engage in some heroic deed or something unique, special deed, then the monarch will be happy. He can be pleased. So similarly, this profound and vast Mahayana teaching is also through the hearing, thinking, and meditation. Through that way, you are able to please the Mahayana teaching means you will be able to actualize the teaching. You will be able to have it. You will be able to develop these inner qualities within yourself. So that is the meaning. And then if you develop that, then as I said, then you will have all these inner qualities like the 10 powers and so forth. So that's the meaning. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. And the next question, could you please explain, if I'm understanding it correctly, that the 10 parameters correspond to the 10 bodhisattva grounds?
Yes.
Or do they become bodhisattva grounds only when one realizes or understands the 6th parameter of wisdom?
If you read the Madhyamika Avatara, then the 10 generations of mind, instead of saying 10 chapters, it calls it 10 generations of mind. So there, each of the parameters is related to these 10 stages of generation of mind in terms of their primacy in practice. It doesn't mean that it is not there in the other spiritual grounds, but in terms of focus, main emphasis, it is explained in that way. Okay.